Oh, hey, I've been waiting for you.
Oh,
I was waiting for you.
Oh,
I've been
so
waiting
sweet.
for you. Oh,
Okay.
your good side.
Well, here's the lights.
Right on, there we go.
Okay.
Can you adjust that light? Thank you, sir. What made you want to EP this?
Because I have been a Goodwill Ambassador for the United Nations against human trafficking since 2009, and it's one of the greatest honors and privileges of my life to fight human trafficking. And this is the first really powerful film I have seen primarily about labor trafficking, not sex trafficking. And everybody makes movies about sex trafficking because that is the thing that is the most egregious in your mind when you think like Sound of Freedom, the film that I was a part of. And it really moved people's hearts and minds and did a lot of good, and a lot of charities were boosted because of it. But nobody makes movies about labor trafficking, and this one is about labor trafficking, and it's very powerful. It's moving, it's beautiful, it's tough. It's got sort of elements of the hero's journey. You know, it's got a lot of filmic things in it that aren't just documentary style. You know, it's almost like a journey through hell. But you've got this incredibly charismatic young man, Jesús, the character who's sort of mute for most of the film, and he's so beautiful. He's like so moving. His story is so compelling, and you really relate to his humanity, and that's what I want the audiences to do, is to imagine themselves in Jesus's shoes and, you know, going through this terrible exploitation which so many millions of people around the world are put through, where they are, you know, recruited, a false recruitment by unscrupulous traffickers, and they're told they're going to go work in another country as a nanny or as a model or as a teacher or, you know, something, a construction worker, and they get there and they're basically under lock and key, and in this case it's in the garment industry for fast fashion, and people's lives are just taken from them. I mean, they basically are living in hell, and this little boy who's got these dreams of being a soccer player is instead, you know, in a basement, you know, forced to make this quota of free labor garments like all day, all night, and he's beaten, and everybody's beaten if they don't comply. And that's the reality for millions and millions of people. 25 million people are labor trafficking victims in the world, and about, let's see, my math is terrible, but like 17 times, 16.5 million victims are children, and 8 million of those are labor trafficking victims, and a lot of them are in this country. I mean, this story is based on a true story. There was a case in LA, the El Monte case, where all of these Thai trafficking victims were uncovered in a kind of a sweat house where they were forced to stay and work, and they were bussed in and out, and finally somebody noticed and made a call, and then it was broken open. But how many others are out there that we're not aware of, that we're not saving, and that we're not fighting the system that allows this to be perpetrated? The fast fashion, all the corporations that do business in America should have to prove that they have been vetted for slavery in their supply chain. But the way that business works is people are always looking for the cheapest goods, the cheapest labor, and they subcontract. And so the head of the state has no idea who's even making the t-shirts, and they're being made by slave hands. They're being made by kids whose lives are being destroyed so that we can go and buy a $7 t-shirt at the mall. And our government isn't doing enough about it. There's no real teeth in the auditing. And we're also, you know, not discovering these people enough. And of course we need better vetting at the border, absolutely, but it's not just the border issue. People tend to fixate on the border as being the answer. It's not. It's the demand side. Just like in sex trafficking, if people didn't sleep with children, if they didn't want to sleep with children, you wouldn't have sex trafficking, because there'd be nobody demanding to rape these kids. If you didn't have this obsession with fast fashion and buying things cheaply, and, you know, just this consumption without a concept of where it comes from, and governments not caring, and just this sort of free market idea that doesn't even worry about human beings in the process, then, you know, if we had a more fair system that was more careful and that cared about human beings more than the bottom line, then we would have less slavery. So, you know, there's multi-pronged approaches, you know, law enforcement, there's civil society, there's all these incredible aid groups that help them, that need more support. There's a great group in LA called CAST, Coalition to Abolish Slavery and Trafficking, that works to help labor trafficking victims regain their lives, rebuild their lives. There's the Human Voluntary Trust Fund for victims of trafficking persons that I'm on the board of trustees of, and they help people around the globe in 60 countries with donations to organizations that help people rebuild their lives. But, you know, the vast majority of people right now in trafficking will stay trafficked. Less than 1% is discovered and exited. That's the horrible truth right now. So I'm hoping that this film is going to make a difference, because people's hearts are going to be broken for this little boy, and they're going to be like, okay, it's time to start becoming a part of the solution.
You're making a total difference, and even by the way you're explaining it and your emotions about it, like, totally touched me. And I hope it touches everybody out there, because it's like, it messes your brain up.
It does,
I went through hell watching this. It's like,
it's very hard. This is a hard movie. It's hard, but you know, it's powerful too. And you got to say that when a work of art can do that, you know, it's powerful. So
thank you for your time. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I hope this is like the speech or the video that saves like 1 million kids.
From your mouth to God's ears.
Thank you.
Thank you.